Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Successfully Sustainable, podcast all about learning how to live a more attainable, maintainable, sustainable lifestyle. I am very lucky today to be joined by the lovely Tash Napoli from Nourish'd. Nourish'd is a plant-based and zero-waste cafe and juicery based in Cape Town. They've got two branches in OBS and in Clove, on Clove Street. They're on a mission to raise awareness about the ecological crisis facing the planet and what we can all do to create change. Tash founded Nourish'd in 2017 out of her dad's garage, where all good companies are founded, and has since grown to be one of Cape Town's most well-loved and recognizable restaurants, I'd say in general, but especially in kind of plant-based eating. Their focus is on sharing the message that delicious food and successful eateries can be kind to both the human and earth body, and creates all of their food with the health of the human body and the planet in mind. And in amongst all of that, try to do it while being as ethical as humanly possible, which is quite something. Let's get straight into the plant-based situation. When did you start your journey towards a more plant-based lifestyle? How did that happen? How did that come about? What was your inspiration? Yeah, let's get into that.
Wow, so it's quite a long journey. I basically left school in 2009 and then went on and studied makeup. So I was a MAC makeup artist. I used to work at the MAC store in the waterfront, and then decided that I wanted to travel. So I think it was for my 21st birthday, my parents bought me a trip anywhere in the world where I wanted to go. And I wanted to go to Italy to go and actually learn how to speak Italian. So I booked my ticket to Italy, a one-way trip, to become an au pair for a Venetian family. So I lived in Venice for a year.
Sure, incredible.
And that was just mind-boggling. And then I did au pairing for, I think it was like 3 years, and then worked on the super yachts for about 3-4 years.
Okay, very interesting.
And I think that's when I moved. I think it was like the end of my au pairing experience, beginning of yachting experience. I just started eating more. I was eating a lot.
Yeah.
And especially on the yachts, because you have a chef, like a 5-star, 7-star Michelin chef cooking for you 3 times a day, breakfast
Very
and
hard
lunch.
to say no. I can
You know,
imagine.
you're with the crew and you're all in the crew mess and you're all eating together. You can't sit in your cabin at lunch.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not supposed to eat 3 times a day, these massive meals. So I just started eating more, doing less exercise. It wasn't normal for me not to be like, you know, exercising. And then I went through a breakup, quite a bad breakup, and started eating more, just eating my way through the pain. And then decided that I needed to move away from the arts and do something for myself. So got into yoga. My chief stewardess at the time actually was like, "Have you ever heard of yoga?" And I was like, "No, I've never heard of it. What is it?" She was like, "Well, why don't you come with me? It's a sweat class. We can go." And we were actually docked in Fort Lauderdale at the time in the States. And I would go with her to this yoga class and really got into it. And then we were in the Caribbean, and I met this yoga instructor. It was a different class, and I really connected with this woman. Like, she was incredible. And she said to me, "Have you ever thought about doing your yoga teacher training?" And I was like, "No, I've never thought about that, but it really interests me." So I knew that I had 1 month of leave coming up, and I'd just gone through a breakup, and I wanted to get away. And I was like, it would be so cool if I could do my yoga teacher training. So let me see where I could do my yoga teacher training in this area.
Yeah.
So I started like researching, and I found this beautiful like retreat space in Costa Rica.
Oh, beautiful.
So I lived in Costa Rica for about 2 months, and that's where I did my yoga teacher training. And I didn't actually know, like I didn't read the itinerary, but it was raw vegan for a whole month. And up until then, I'd really never even heard of like,
Mm.
I'd heard of like vegetarianism,
Yeah.
but I'd never heard of veganism. And so I arrived and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm excited to like have eggs on toast tomorrow morning. And then it was just like fruit and raw cashew nuts. And I was like, okay, like, when are the eggs
Yeah.
going to come? Where's the buffet?
Yeah. Where's
And they
my
were
eggs
like, yeah,
Benedict? What's
where's
going
the
on?
Benny? And I was like, okay. And then they explained that it was raw vegan. So there was like no cooked food. And I was
Sure.
just like, okay, cool. This is cool. I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
And I ate raw vegan for a whole month and practiced crazy amounts of yoga every single day. Like 8 hours of yoga straight. If we weren't practicing, we were studying yoga and just, learning all the knowledge. And the intention wasn't to go in to lose weight. It was
Yeah.
just to, further my education and practice how to become a yoga instructor. But after a month, I'd lost like, I don't know, 5, 6 kilos. Not with the intention of losing weight. That wasn't my intention. It was just, the weight was just coming off, just by itself. And I just started looking into like mind, body, soul connection and how when you're out of alignment, how unbalanced you become. And then no matter what you do, you just don't, the weight doesn't come off because you're out of balance.
Yeah.
And so I started like aligning like my mind, body, and soul and just started following my truth. And that was just to live more in my body, more connected to source, more connected to nature, and really started practicing meditation, learning a little bit about Ayurveda within the course, and really just found my little comfortable spot. I was like, "Ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
I like this sort of."
Yeah.
Didn't even know what it was in the time or doing it. Some say it was like my health awakening, which it was. Some say it's my spiritual awakening because I really started learning about this exterior sort of, control that was happening.
Yeah.
But without me actually making the decisions. And it was just like me deciding to follow my path and stepping into that power. All these doors started opening. So I came back to Cape Town, and because I just done my yoga teacher training, I was like, I want to become a yoga instructor. And then I started working at my dad's restaurant. He owns Bacini's in Kloof Street.
Oh,
The
wow.
top of, so Nourish'd is opened at the bottom of at the bottom of Bacini's.
Oh, okay.
And so it's all in the blood, you know. So he had these 2 garages at the bottom of his restaurant that was just like junk food.
Yeah.
And I was walking down to my car in the car park at the back, and I was like, Dad, what are these garages? They just like empty space. Like, what is this? And it was just like memorabilia of his life, like ships and small ships and stuff. And I was like, I want to start my yoga studio in this area. And, he went on to say, no, you can't, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, let me open up a juice bar, you know.
Yeah.
I want green juice. I can't get it anywhere in Cape Town.
Yeah.
I'm going to start making juices and smoothies.
So that was around 2017.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And that's basically the start up until how Nourish'd. So, it took me 3 months to renovate the garages. And 4.5 years later, we're here in this amazing studio.
Thank you. The podcast is about how to lead a successfully sustainable life, because I think it's really important to have the conversations about, like I said, like attainable, maintainable, sustainable things that, people can integrate easily and over time to, where it's an easy implementation into one's lifestyle. And I think it's also really important to have the conversations from a business perspective of how to grow a business that is sustainable, not only from a kind of economic standpoint, but from a, the traditional definition of sustainable point of view. What have been your biggest learnings along the way in trying to grow a sustainable, ethical business, learning things that didn't work out? Yeah.
It's a great question. I get this question a lot. I think it's that fine balance of trying to make the business, like you say, financially sustainable, but also trying not to affect the environment as much as possible. And especially in the hospitality industry, in restaurants, it's hard because, it's mass consumerism. It is a lot of waste.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge balancing act of trying to make the planet happy, the customer happy, but also making it profitable so that you can actually carry on.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in actually doing all the work if you don't have a business.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, when I first opened, there was absolutely no way that I was ever going to serve my juices in a plastic bottle. There was no way. But 4.5 years later, and after a global pandemic, I've really had to sit myself down and go, if I want to still be around in the next 5 years, how can I lay the foundations out now so that we can be around?
Yeah.
And it's hard because, in my core, I want obviously what's best for the business and for the environment. But you've also got to be realistic and you've got to be practical.
And sometimes those two things are in opposition, unfortunately.
Exactly. And so, I mean, we are actually transitioning over to PET.
Okay.
This has been probably one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make in my business career. And it wasn't any other reason other than we just can't do glass anymore.
Yeah.
Practically, environmentally, sustainably, it's just not working for my business anymore.
Yeah.
And so we've gone down the rabbit hole. We actually hired a environmental lawyer to do a completely biased case study on the life cycle of the Nourish'd glass bottle and then the new PET bottle that we're going to be integrating into. And I mean, before she'd started, I said to her, I was like, listen, like, before I make this decision, I want you to tell me if it's a good decision or not. What are your findings before I make the final call?
Yeah.
And she came back and she was like, listen, like, I'm all for, and she's like very environmental.
Yeah.
I'm all for saving the planet. And she was like, listen, PET is actually better. If you keep it out of the oceans and you keep it out of our landfills, if you create a good support structure for the customer to have that PET bottle, it's definitely better. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. And so, I mean, this is something that I've really had to like come to terms with and I've made the decision, and now we're integrating into PET. But we've got, a very amazing, supportive integration process that we're going to offer our clientele to be able to make that transition. But I mean, huge decisions is also not having a partner, not having a company partner, and being a sole business owner on my own. I was actually saying to my partner recently that in the beginning, 4.5 years ago, I was like, I want to be on my own. I want to make all the decisions. I want to be, the owner, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, actually, I would love to have a business owner.
Yeah.
I would love to have someone that, keeps me accountable for my part.
Yeah.
Also like eggs me on, encourages me to do better, because I mean, up until 6 months ago, I was really feeling defeated. I just felt so alone in my business. I felt like I had this huge weight on my shoulders and I was carrying a lot.
Yeah.
And initially I was like, all ego, like myself, me, I want to be the owner, only owner. And now I've had to really let go of that. And I've actually recently asked my husband, my partner, to come on board and So he's just joined the business, and we're actually going to
stunning.
start working together.
Incredible.
And so it's a lot to have a
Yeah.
baby and to have a business
Yeah.
and to have
Yeah.
a relationship, because I feel like all three of those things are, you know, extremely intensive on their
Yeah.
own. But I couldn't do it on my own. I mean, no one knows this. You're the first person to know this. We are actually opening up our third cafe.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
exciting.
And guess where it is?
I want to guess somewhere here, but like that would be too easy. Where are you opening?
It's right across the road from the old Cape Quarter.
Oh,
So
in
next
that.
to the yoga studio in that garage.
Oh, okay. Sick.
So
Amazing.
next to Yoga Life Studio, there's a garage on the right. We're going in and we're opening.
Now I can walk.
I know. How nice.
That's super exciting, and I mean, just location-wise, there's so much really cool development happening in this very small area that actually I think the timing of that is unreal.
We launched on the 1st of October, and I just thought, like, this is number 3. Like, I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
And so about a month ago, Gabe and I actually went away, and we just had the discussion. We were like, he's like very business-minded,
Yeah.
like loves the finance, and I'm more of the creative.
Yeah.
My creativity dies when I have to look at numbers. I'm just like, get it away. And he loves it. He thrives off it. And so I think it's a beautiful balance.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to like step more into my feminine and not be like navigating and operating in my masculine, which I've been doing for the past 4 years. And it's not serving me.
Yeah.
And so he can step into his masculine and support me there. I will be able to create from my divine feminine energy, which will be amazing because I'll have the time and the space to create.
Yeah, and the freedom
and the freedom and the support.
That's just like it's just the thing to do. I think as a business owner, especially operating on the level you're at, to just get to a point where you can bring on somebody who
You
can
can
handle
trust.
and who can handle the side of things that you really don't like handling, that makes work a nightmare. Let them handle that nonsense, and then you can just focus on the stuff that works for you and that's fulfilling and enjoyable, and not just like, oh, I gotta run this part of the business. And you can just focus on the stuff that brings you joy, which I think is, I mean, the value of a business partner, especially someone who's different to you and likes different things to you.
And he is super different. I mean, he is very like, business minded, and I'm not. I'm like more. I'm definitely business minded. Don't go wrong.
You haven't gotten to this point without being business minded.
But I think it's going to be a really great partnership.
Yeah.
So
That's
very
so
exciting. Yeah.
That's a successfully sustainable exclusive, people.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it a bit, but kind of more from the business perspective. But, another one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast and do this was that I think there's a lot of misconceptions, I mean, inevitably, about, creating a plant-based lifestyle and living a plant-based sustainable lifestyle. And I think the lack of understanding is far more of a thing that kind of stops people engaging than the actual lifestyle itself. It's far more the lack of education and the misconceptions. But yeah, I mean, what do you think is the biggest misconception about a plant-based lifestyle or eating habits? What do you think the biggest misconceptions are?
Well, it's different for everyone because we all operate in completely unique bodily systems, and so it will always be this confronting, but this is good, it's not. Environmentally, we all know the facts.
Yeah.
It's just, are you willing to make that sacrifice, and do you have the willpower?
Yeah.
Sort of nutritionally, it depends on what you're made up of and if your body can actually cope. I mean, I've known vegans that have been vegans for years, but had to start incorporating meat into their systems because they were just not coping. And so it's so unique to each person.
Yeah.
But I think the main, misconceptions are just people who are in denial that don't actually want to accept the fact that they can't make the change. Because if you speak to majority of people, they want to stop eating meat. They want to stop,
or at least start reducing,
or
as
stop
a
eating
starting
less
step.
meat.
Yeah.
Everyone that I speak to is like, I wish I could. I just can't. It's hard, And so I think a lot of people, if they have quite a heightened ego, will try and defend their case.
Yeah.
Not because of any other reason, but because they really struggled to make that decision and actually stick by it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's different because especially now with social media and we have the power to learning everything ourselves with the internet, you do have the opposing argument on social media and on the internet, and so you can, it's information bias. If you're a meat eater, you will find the information that will support your thoughts, and you will carry on, and you will start seeing ads that, and so you create the world that you want to believe.
Yeah. I think it's really important that we encourage the process and taking the steps, because I think, like you said, I think it's one of those things that is almost self-fulfilling. It's a what's the opposite of a vicious circle? I always want to use the phrase and I always forget it. But a virtuous cycle. That's the one where it's to me it's like, how do we just get people started? Because once you become aware of the one thing, your kind of your natural curiosity of a child starts to come out, and you start going, oh, I wonder why I do this. And once you've accepted that, okay, the one thing that's societally a norm, like eating meat, isn't necessarily a good thing for the planet, I think all of a sudden you're so much more open to receiving that same kind of context in all different places. But I think it's also really important to kind of talk about the different ways that we can be sustainable, because like you said, you've known vegans who were vegan for years but then just had to integrate meat into their lifestyle, and different bodies, different contexts, different socio-economic contexts that make, for example, going vegan, I think, I mean, this is something I kind of want to get into, but the cost and perceived cost and all of that, but where if you can't go vegan, say, that's fine. If there's like a reason that's socio-economic, cultural, your body just can't do it, whatever, cool. There's tons of other ways that you can have a positive impact. And who knows, maybe after engaging in a few of those, you get to a point whether your health is better, or you're spending less money on petrol or something like that, where it becomes affordable, or it becomes, and not having this kind of conventional way of being sustainable. I think that lends itself to trendiness and to all of the greenwashing and all of those things, where it's like, I think it's really important that we talk about, okay, there's no right way. Stop trying to find the right way. Try and find the right way for you. Try and find what works for you and what is sustainable for you in your life. And I think it's a fairly good lead into, like, there is a perception, I think, because I'm a student as well, and money is not everywhere, that eating vegan can be expensive. Eating plant-based can be expensive. And I was chatting to another chef about it, and he was kind of saying that, it's expensive because we get taught to cook with meat as the core.
Yeah.
And then we build some veggies around it. And that's how we know to cook. So when you take meat out but don't change the way you know how to cook, you're like, how do I fill that big hole there with chickpea? And if you don't know how to do that, it feels, okay, I've just got to go buy Beyond Burgers from whatever, which are 150 Rand for two, and then 100%, if you do veganism that way, it's bloody expensive.
Yeah.
But if you learn to cook with the raw materials, then it's all of a sudden cheaper, because meat as a, single produce is one of the most expensive things you'll put into your meal. But again, it's perceptions and context and understanding. And yeah, I mean, as a business, we talked about it, how you balance kind of business and profit, and trying to I don't know, you're not chasing the bottom line, but you do have to run a business that works. And yeah, I mean, how do we overcome that barrier? What are your thoughts? I mean, so good luck answering it properly, because I don't think there's a full answer, but yeah.
I think the education is where we should start. I mean, I started Nourish'd on one of the pillars is education. And I think it was my sort of duty to educate the people in my community, or at least the people who were coming to Nourish on a daily basis, about the lifestyle and about the environment and what we should be doing. And so, I mean, hosting workshops, we host a ton of, pre-COVID, we were hosting a ton of workshops on, how to make kombucha, how to make the most amazing kimchi, and they really simple techniques. But once you know the techniques, and you practice the techniques, and like I say, it kind of just becomes part of your lifestyle.
In talking about the foods, and obviously you've been vegan for plant-based for a good long while, and I think the label plant-based is really nice. I really like it, because I think it's a lot less kind of, it does lose some of the stigmas associated, and is a more sustainable way of looking at it, because to me it's like, you can be plant-based across a variety of those labels. I consider, my eating is plant-based almost exclusively,
Yeah.
So it is still plant-based. It's not completely plant-based, but allowing for that spectrum, I think, is important, because, again, it lets one feel like a part of the community and that energy, without necessarily needing to be identically the same as another label.
Exactly.
But as a restaurateur, how do you push yourself to keep innovating and keep developing new things and new foods, and where do those inspirations come from? How do you keep things exciting in the kitchen?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from just like my personal journey, and then just being aligned with nature. I feel like I draw a lot of my inspiration when I'm out in nature, and so just making sure that you're maintaining a good amount of time connecting back to the beautiful plant kingdom. But I think with regards to products, I would say the collaboration that we did with Ether, Apothecary, was just a sort of my own journey into motherhood. And I think that's where the collaboration came in. I just felt like I needed deeper level of support. Like my lifestyle and what I was eating nutritionally wasn't supporting me throughout my pregnancy. And so I needed plants to support the deeper healing and supporting there. And so I'd met actually Cullen at Nourish'd, and then had kept his number because I'd known that he was starting Ether, and I think through my pregnancy I was struggling with milk production. So I wasn't producing enough milk for my daughter, and I messaged him. I think I actually called him, and I was like, "Oh, you've got to help me.
Do you have a mushroom for this?"
I need some plants. And I just said to him, like, I know of a couple of plants that, support with lactation. Could you come up with something? And he whipped up an incredible tincture for me, and he sent it down, and I tried it, and it boosted my milk production like you cannot even believe. I mean, it's just quite raw, but I was producing so much milk that it was just like leaking. It was crazy. And so that was when I really realized how powerful plant medicine is. and that they are just such great allies to use when you need deeper support.
Yeah.
And so I had then said to him, well, then let's work on a little bit of a medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
And I took sort of 10 just like off-balancing things that we all go through.
Yeah.
And he created 10 different tinctures for me. And, you know, we white labeled his beautiful product. And then that was when the Nourish'd tincture line was brought out. And so, yeah, I think through that's how products, but when it comes to like recipes on the menu, I'm inspired a lot I do a lot of like research to see what other juice bars and what other healthy eateries are doing in the rest of the world. So I follow quite a few, and I always watch them closely just to see, you know, what they're doing, what they're working with, and then always try it and test it in the kitchen and then tweak it.
Yeah.
So we actually launched our new winter menu at OBS yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And we have done a play on a peanut butter and jelly gluten-free vegan waffle. And we've done...
Wow, that sounds unreal.
Yeah, so the jelly we've made with blueberries and chia seed.
Okay.
So, and then it's so good. And then we've done a play on a carrot cake. So it's a vegan gluten-free carrot cake waffle. And then we've got a beautiful laksa, and we've got a kitchery, and we've got a curry, a beautiful potato, broccoli, and chickpea green curry with
That sounds so
like
nice.
this cumin
For
caramelized onion rice. And then we've actually made a gluten-free vegan naan bread that has chia seeds and poppy seeds in it. So it's white, and then it's got all these beautiful little seeds in it. And it's like garlic and coarse, like Karoo
Next
salt.
time there's a cold day, I'm 100% trying that,
It is
because
it's my favorite thing on the menu at the moment.
that sounds like
so
one of those
good.
things that just makes you feel better in
It's like you
every
eat
way,
it,
physically, mentally.
and you just feel so good.
Yeah.
Like so nourished,
Yeah.
literally.
Name drop. Yeah, and I think it's also a good time to be having these conversations with the generations that are, I mean, currently the biggest workforce and therefore spending forces. Millennials and Gen Z are coming through, which is generally a very conscious and self-conscious, but not in the, well, in the like self-conscious, but also self-conscious, who are aware of their health and being a lot more kind of interrogative of what they're eating and what they're putting in their bodies. And so I think in a lot of ways it's a culmination of a bunch of really good factors coming out of a really, really hard time, where, you know, we need to acknowledge that there are positives that have come out of this, and hopefully will continue to come out from there. We've talked about a bunch of brands, but are there any people or brands or non-profits or anything that you know of that you work with that you want to give a special little shout out to, that have been doing really cool work? Here's your moment to shout out some people.
We are doing... we've got quite a few brand partners. We are collaborating with Oceaneers and Ocean Redentes, Parley TV. So we've got a beach cleanup happening on Saturday in Cork Bay. So if you're around, it's going to be an underwater and land beach cleanup. So bring your wetsuit and your goggles. And yeah, and I mean, Ether Apothecary for supporting us in creating a beautiful line of adaptogenic tinctures, which are just out of this world. So you can find those on our website. And
yeah, I mean, it's hard to mention everyone. Because there's, especially in Cape Town, like, we are so lucky to have such a wealth of different offerings. I mean, if you had 3 or 5 like simple tips or implementations or things that people can integrate really easily into their lifestyle that isn't as big a step of like stop eating meat tomorrow and
Right
like
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
like simple things, simple ways to cook, simple little snacks to integrate that are better than more meat-based things. Yeah, any tips that you've kind of accrued over your time?
So I think the best one is to get into a good routine of getting out into nature. Like that's very important. So if you can dedicate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even if you're not doing anything, once or twice a week,
Yeah.
just to get out in nature, go for a walk in the mountain, go for a walk in the beach, to bring yourself a little bit more in line with nature and a little bit connected to the earth, I think will lead you and give you good foundation to taking the next steps. Once you can start getting that routine to exercise is can't stress it enough. And it's funny because like you said, like you go through these phases of like working out and then not working out. And then you always think to yourself, like, once you get back into it, like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time?
Yeah.
And so integrating a really supportive exercise routine that works for you.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying go out and run every single day, 5 hours a day. I'm just saying, if it's like a fast-paced walk on the promenade or fast-paced walk around your block or, maybe joining a yoga studio and trying out yoga or so to cultivate a beautiful practice, like energetically, just to get the heart rate up. So that's what we want to do. We want to get the heart rate up.
Yeah.
So once you get in line with nature and you're getting the heart rate up a couple times a week, I'd say for food-wise, I'd say, like you said, just if you can't do omitting meat at once, I know it's hard, then just trying no meat Mondays.
Yeah.
Because that's a good starting point. Just every Monday you say, I'm not gonna cook any meat products. And there's an incredible blogger, recipe developer called the Minimalistic Baker online, and she was a huge part. You can find the link up here.
It'll be somewhere. I don't know, it'll be somewhere.
And she was a huge part of my integration, and I used a lot of her recipes. So she does amazing plant-based recipes, and they're really easy. And the cheese, you'll find a vegan cafe.
Yeah.
Because that makes the integration easier,
Yeah.
because you know that they can also support you if you don't know what to cook.
Yeah.
We are Uber Eats, we are Mr. D. So
Yeah.
we've got a array of dishes. And then another one, which is also so nice, is to learn how to make your own.
Yeah.
So that's also it's really nice to learn how to sprout your own sprouts and how to make kimchi.
Yeah.
I mean, put some sliced vegetables up in water and add salt. I mean, there's a bit of a process to it, but the basis are simple.
Yeah.
And just like start empowering yourself with knowledge to help yourself support the process.
Yeah.
If you are not recycling, and I'm quite like strict with this one, if you're not recycling in this day and age, you really have been living under a rock. If someone tells me like they don't know what recycling is, or if they haven't been recycling, I'm just like, what? Like, where have you been living?
Yeah.
So it's a huge thing
And
for
also
me.
the 3 steps, like reduce
Recycle,
first,
yeah.
then reuse if you can,
Then recycle.
and then recycle
Yeah.
almost as like a last resort. But also, if you're not there yet, just start with recycling.
Yeah.
This is your monologue moment. If there's anything you need on your mind, anything you want to say, anything that's just been burning on you that you want people to hear, you can just go, and I won't be interrupting you at all.
Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Tash. I'm the founder of Nourish'd Cafe and Juicery in Cape Town. I have had the pleasure in speaking with Brad from Kaya on all things sustainable and how to sort of have a sustainable business in Cape Town. I want to take this opportunity to say Firstly, if you are experiencing any sorts of dis-ease within your life, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, I want you to know that you can heal yourself. It is a very, very scary sort of stepping stone, but I also want you to know that you can take on beautiful lifestyle changes that can support you into fulfilling and making your life more holistic and more fulfilled. So I know there are many, external forces at play at the moment with the pandemic and everything that has, kind of just shocked us out of alignment and out of balance. But if you can just come into yourself and know that we are designed as humans to be able to heal, and you can heal yourself emotionally, physically, and spiritually by just realizing that you are this beautiful, conscious human being living on an incredible planet. And you just kind of have to, step up and take the initiative into making these steps happen for yourself. Sometimes we get caught up and we get, sidetracked and we get stuck in a little bit of a rut. I know, especially for me, having these moments of very low and sort of uncomfortable and dark spaces, and it's totally normal. You're not alone. There is also ways that you can come out of these sort of episodes, and it's just a matter of making sure that you are nourishing your body. And as cliche as that sounds, it's nourishing your body, nourishing your mind, and nourishing your soul. And when I say that, just to go a little bit deeper, when we are feeling these deep feelings, we sometimes don't want to take these steps into, cultivating better habits because we're feeling uneasy. But I want to assure you that just by gently starting the approach and the process of healing yourself and eating better foods and, going for your walk and really connecting yourself to nature more will help you with living a more abundant and fulfilled life. And so I know sometimes it's easier to say than do, but I want you to know that I am here and Nourish'd is here to support you. So if there are any things that you need or any sorts of information, if you want to kickstart your health journey with, a juice fast or a nutritional program, you can contact us and we can support you in, your healing journey, wherever that is. And yeah, just any questions that you have with regard to where do I start, how do I live, a more plant-based lifestyle, we are here to support you. I am offering all my time and all my energy to you, the audience, in whatever you need. So contact me via email, via Instagram. I'm here to support you in any way that you need.
Thank you so much for that. That sounded incredible. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for your time and for giving of your time and your wisdom and your experience to me personally. I mean, like I said, this is very much self-indulgent, and I just get to talk to people that I want to talk to. But thank you for sharing your insight, not only with me, but with the audience of people who will be listening, and yeah, sharing your experience and your knowledge. I really appreciate it. And a thank you to you, the listener, for listener or watcher, depending on how you're doing this. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation as well, because I think it's really important that we include you people as part of the conversation. And yeah, this is a conversation and it's ongoing, and it's happening all the time, and we'd encourage you to engage in the conversation in your own life and talk to your friends and ask them and just get their perspective and try and do it. Listen and ask and receive the knowledge without judgment as much as possible, and be aware of that.
And also, just to add, if you are here, it means that you've already kind of taken taken
Exactly.
some sort of steps.
Well done.
Because, you're obviously intrigued by this conversation and this topic. So just by you listening and watching is a huge step in your own, health journey or your health awakening. So well done to you, really.
Absolutely. And thank you again for giving of your time to listen to us. And we hope you found it really enjoyable and valuable. I know I did. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to Successfully Sustainable, the podcast all about living a more attainable, maintainable, sustainable lifestyle. Like it on whatever you're watching/listening on. Subscribe to us, rate us, do all those good things, because we're having lots of really fascinating conversations with some incredible people like Tash. And yeah, remember to hold yourself to a standard of improvement and not perfection, because that's a lot more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Yay!